Alright, so number 1 says, tell whether each polygon is regular or irregular. Tell whether it's concave or convex. So what do you guys get for 1? Regular and convex. What about number 2? Irregular and concave. Perfect. Number 3. Irregular and convex. And number 4?
Irregular and concave.
This would be regular because all of our sides are the same and all of our angles are the same. So this is regular and concave. What about 5? Regular and convex. And number 6? Irregular and convex. Just remember, to be regular, we need to have all the angles that are congruent and all the sides that are congruent. Okay. So let's go on to 7. Find the sum of the interior angles of the polygon. So how do we find the sum of the interior? So we do the number of sides, which for this one it's 6 minus 2 times 180. So we get 720 degrees. What about for number 8? So we do the number of sides minus 2 times 180. We get 540. And then number 9, 17 minus 2 times 180. What is it? 2,700.
That's what I got.
So the sum of the interior angles in a 17 is 2,700. So let's go to 10. Find the measure of each exterior angle of the following polygons. So how do we find each exterior angle? Divide 360 by the number of sides. So how many sides are in an octagon?
8.
So 135? Oh, 45. Yes. 45 degrees. Yes. 360 divided by 8. So let's look at a regular polygon. Remember, we're finding each exterior angle. So what do we need to do? 360 divided by 5. What do we get? 75 degrees. And for 12, how many sides are in a heptagon? 7. So what do we do to find each exterior angle? 360 divided by 7. What do we get? 51.42.
What would you do if it was like why is it say regular in front of it?
Because we can't find each angle if it was irregular.
So would it ever say irregular or like that's
No.
No, right?
If it's a question like this, it would say regular.
Okay.
Because if it was irregular, all the sides are going to be different, so we wouldn't be able to find each one. Like for a regular pentagon, we're saying that all of the sides, okay, this is not a regular pentagon. There we go. All of the angles here are going to be 75. So we wouldn't be able to do an equation like this unless it told us that like this was x, this was 2x, if it was like irregular.
Okay.
So let's look at 13. So here we have an irregular shape where we have to find the value of x. So how do we find x?
X minus 3 equals 130.
Maya.
X minus 3 plus 110 is equal to 90.
Is it number 11? I got 71 for 11.
What?
I got 70, yeah, I got 71.
I got 5.
So 11 is 72 degrees.
For number 12, I have 51. I put 1.4.
That's fine.
We're gonna have none of that.
I think on the quiz they're all whole numbers. Okay, so how do we do 13?
X minus 3 plus x equals 180.
So we can only do that if it's a parallelogram. Because in parallelograms we know consecutive angles are supplementary. But this is not a parallelogram.
You add them all up and equal to 360.
We add them all up and set them equal to 360. How do we know that all the angles added together are 360? Yeah, so we do n minus 2, so our number of sides is 4, minus 2 times 180, which tells us that all the angles inside added together are going to be 360. So now we add all the angles inside together and set it equal to 360. So we do x plus x minus 3 plus 110 plus 130 is equal to 360. So now we need to combine all the like terms. So since we have two x's, we just put 2x. And then we have 237. 237. So we subtract 237 from the left and from the right. Yep. So x is equal to?
I feel like it's wrong, but I got 61.5.
61.5.
Oh, Ms. Garber, she's trying to see 12.
For 12?
Oh, it's 40.42?
51.42. We have x plus x, so we combine those to 2x. Any other questions on this page? All right, let's go to the next one. So now we have our next section, which is parallelograms. So what are the 5 ways you can prove a polygon is a parallelogram?
If the opposite sides
If the opposite sides are
are congruent.
congruent, we need both pairs of opposite sides to be congruent. What's another way? Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. Perfect.
One pair of opposite sides are parallel and congruent.
One pair of opposite sides are parallel and congruent.
The diagonal bisect.
Both the diagonals bisect each other.
Both, both opposite pairs are parallel to each
Right, both of the opposite sides are parallel.
other.
Perfect. So these are the 5 ways that we can prove that a polygon is a parallelogram.
Do we have to draw them for the quiz tomorrow?
But there'll be a question on this. Okay, let's go to 15. So we know LMNO is a parallelogram. So we need to find x. So if this is a parallelogram, how can we find x? What do we need to do? We know that this side's going to be equal to this one, so we just set 15 equal to 3x plus 6. So we subtract 6 from both sides, and we get 9 is equal to 3x, and x is equal to 3. Okay, let's look at 16. So again, we know L, M, and O is a parallelogram, so we have to find the measure of angle M, and find the measure of angle N. So how can we find N first? It's the same as L, because we know that these are going to be congruent. So angle N is equal to 75 degrees.
And then N equals 180, so you subtract 180 by 75, so N is 105.
Right, so we know that L and M are going to add up to 180 because they're consecutive angles. So 75 plus angle M is going to be equal to 180. So we just subtract 75 from both sides. And angle M is equal to 105.
So it's always the main reason trying to find the other angle?
If it's a parallelogram, yes.
If it's not, then what is it?
If it's not, then it would be something like on the last page, like the last question where it had like X. It would tell us like what each angle is. It'll have like a value for those, and we would have to find X. But in a parallelogram, we know that the consecutive angles, so M and L, are going to be supplementary, so they add up to 180. And then we know that the opposite ones are going to be congruent. Ready for the next one? So the consecutive angles of a parallelogram measure 4x plus 60 and 6x. What is the measure of the largest angle? So what do we know about the consecutive angles of a parallelogram? They add up to 180. So let's add them and set it equal to 180. And now let's solve for x. So we can add 4x and 6x and get 10x and subtract 60. So we get 10x is equal to 120. Divide by 10. Well, what do we get for x? 12. Is that our answer? No. We need to take this and plug it back in into both of these in order to find which one is the largest angle. So let's plug it into 4x plus 60. So we have 4 times 12 plus 60, which is 108. And then we have 6 times 12, which is 72. So we have 2 angles in our parallelogram that are going to be 108 and 2 that are 72. So what is the measure of the largest angle? 108. So our answer here is 108. Any questions on these? On 14 through 17? All right, let's go to the last question. So So LMNO is a parallelogram. Find x. So what do we need to do to find x? We make them equal to each other because we know that the diagonals are going to be equal. So we have 2x plus 7 is equal to 3x. What do we do to solve for x? Subtract 2x from both sides, so we get 7 is equal to x. And that's our answer. Any questions about the quiz? When's your quiz? Tomorrow. 12. No proof. Just like this. There's going to be a couple multiple choice questions too, so that's where it's a little different from the review, but